Hello, everyone, and welcome back to 305 Insights. I'm your host, Alan Somerton, and the day is finally upon us, folks. FSU finally has gotten that zero off the win column and are now 1-3 on the season as they conquered, if you want to use that word, California Bears. 14-9, a real barn burner. We're going to kind of dive into the good and the bad. Kind of want to start off with the good. And the good was this defensive line finally showed up together. You've had good individual performances. I really want to point out that Joshua Farmer has gotten better and better each game. And this is his pinnacle so far. 3.5 tackles for loss, 1 sack, and he was just a disruptive force all game. I believe he played 49 snaps, so even on the 49th snap, he was in the backfield causing chaos. Patrick Payton, ACC Defensive Lineman of the Week, even though Adam Fuller, the defensive coordinator, kind of put him in weird position. You know, he's one of your best pass rushers, and you had him spying the QB the whole time. He did still finish with 3.5 tackles for loss and 3 sacks. You had Marvin Jones Jr. I know I've given him a lot of flack over the past few weeks. I think he could have produced a little more, but at the end of the day, 2 sacks, 2 tackles for losses. I'll take it. It's a development for him. And then you had some of the young kids, Edwin Joseph, Quindarius Jones. Joseph had a half a sack at the end of the game in combination with Darrell Jackson. Both of them finished with a half a sack, half a tackle for loss. Quindarius Jones, half a tackle for loss, 3 pass deflections. Just an overall great game. I mean, again, Joseph and Quindarius Jones are young cornerbacks, but everybody else on that defensive line performed really well. You know, Cam Riley had the other tackle for loss, and Blake Nicholson had a half a tackle for loss. It's really good reading some of these young names again. Blake Nicholson stepping up into his role as the FSU linebacker of the future, and an individual who's leading the team in snap count for the linebacking group, which is really good to see for his development and the fact that the coaching staff trusts him in that situation to give him all the snap counts. KJ Kirkland, a young safety, 7 total tackles. And it's just, again, refreshing to see some of these kids getting that opportunity. So, all in all, defensive line, great job. The only issue with the defense was sort of the bend, don't break mentality. You allowed over 400 yards of offense, 107 yards rushing, and 303 yards passing, so a total of 410. Just a lot of mishaps on situations where it was 3rd and long, 3rd and 18, or even like 2nd and 23. Like, you really want them to keep Cal behind the sticks, and they found ways to continue to do that. So they had 12 big plays, Cal did, and that accounted for 280 yards. They had 8 passes of 15 or more yards. Totals 209. And it's just, I mean, again, you can survive on bend, don't break against teams that aren't that great. And again, Cal was 3-0 going into this game. Congratulations to them. But this was a game that FSU should have dominated. And again, you get the win, but what can you really build off of this? They got on those. So Cal was 5 of 15 on 3rd down conversions. FSU had them on 3rd and long on 8 of 15 situations. And they converted on 3 of them. You can't allow conversions on those long plays. And again, it's just concerning because that doesn't take into account, again, you have these explosive plays that we talked about, but it's just when you do have these sacks, tackle for losses, and they add up, you can't give up all those chunk plays. You know what the situation is. They're going to have to try and get a lot of those yardage backs, and you're allowing them to. That can't happen. So it was good to see, the sacks, the turnovers, and all that stuff. But certain things need to be still worked on in the defense. Glad they didn't give up a touchdown, but, Cal also missed 2 field goals. Would have been a much different game, obviously, because it would have been 15-14. So, quick note, those 7 sacks ties the record under a Mike Norvell FSU team, matching the 2023 ACC championship game where Jared Verse, Patrick Payton, Braden Fisk, and company just absolutely dominated the Louisville Cardinals. And, yeah, now we move on to the offense. And it was, again, not the greatest display. I mean, 14 points says it all. They had 11 total drives. Only 3 out of those 11 saw them move the ball with any sort of pulse. They went 3 and out 4 times. The 3 successful drives were 8 plays for 60 yards that ended in a touchdown. You had 12 plays for 62 yards that ended in the only pick for DJ Unglele, and 12 plays for 79 yards that ended in a TD. Outside of those 3 drives, the next best drive for this offense was 9 plays for 33 yards. I mean, just tough. 284 total yards, another game under 300 yards of total offense, and this stretches back all the way to when Jordan Travis got injured last year. You didn't have 300 total yards against Florida, Louisville, Georgia, Georgia Tech, Memphis, and Boston College. So we're still on the streak of less than 300 total yards. The good thing is 107 yards on the ground. That's all things considered. With the way they've been playing this season, they've been averaging 52 yards a game, so they've doubled their output, or they've doubled their average in one game. And I'd like to give a lot of credit that to Lawrence Toafili. And he finished with a career-high 17 rushes, 80 yards, and a touchdown. Roydell Williams is going to be out for an extended period of time. And Roydell just shows his ability to do well in this offense. I mean, he's been here a while. And I know you came into this season thinking that Roydell would be your lead back, but this is Toafili's 5th year. He's been here since 2020. And he's shown to be a back that averages, in 2020, averaged 9.6 yards a carry, 5.1, 4.9, 6.7 last year. He has that explosive playability, and you want to see that more come out of your offense on the running game because that sets up the pass. It's a whole system that we have going on here. You run the ball effectively with counters and get those explosive chunk plays on the ground to open up over the top with DJ. That's why you got Malik Benson. That's why you got Jaylen Brown in the transfer portal. But DJ had another okay game at best, if you want to even call it that. 16-27, 177 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Ja'Kai Douglas somehow seems to be the most productive wide receiver game in and game out, and that's no knock on the kid. but he shouldn't be the number one option at 5'9". But here we are. 4 catches, 86 yards, and a touchdown. Jaylen Brown, 2 catches, 29 yards. Hakeem Williams, 2 catches, 22 yards. Kyle Morlock, 3 for 21, and he also had another atrocious, there we go, drop. Malik Benson somehow had 2 catches for negative yardage. He had -4. That's really going to make someone feel good. Toafili, 2 for 9. Kentron Porte, 1 for 14. So, yeah, another sputtering offense performance. Alex Atkins came back. I mean, what else can you say? The offense maybe did a little better. The blocking schemes were a little better, and that might be because of the individuals that you had to put into the game. So, I mean, it's just, you wonder again, like, Norvell's been adamant that DJ is going to be the QB1 moving forward. And a lot of the fan base wants to see Brock Glenn. There has to be an understanding that these coaches are seeing the practices. It's starting to get to the point that if DJ is the best option, that has to have you concerned for Brock Glenn. Because Luke Kroenke should not see the field this year. I said that in the last recording, and I'll say it again this one. He needs to soak in the system, take in all the practice, do all that stuff. But this is a lost season, and we're not going to destroy that kid's confidence yet, because that is the future of the program, folks. He's the future. Luke is the true freshman. I want to see Brock play just to see him develop and see what do we have, as opposed to once we finish this season, are we going to dip in the transfer portal again and try and find a QB to compete with Brock and Luke? I don't want to see that. I want to see something, where we can have film outside of the Louisville game and Georgia. So, I'm hoping to see it happen, but again, it's starting to get concerning, not in the sense that Mike is being stubborn, but maybe he doesn't want to throw Brock under the bus and say he's not ready to play. Because if you're satisfied averaging, what do we have, 12 points a game, if that? Like, what are we doing as an offensive team? So, taking a long pause here to try and figure out how I want to address this, because again, there are a lot of positives to see some of these younglings, the whole hashtag free them younglings. And you did see some of them make an impact. A lot of these second-year players make an impact, whether they're true sophomores or redshirt freshmen. So, I just wanted to see something different from this team on the offensive side. You were hoping eventually the defensive line and corresponding groups would respond as well. Like I stated earlier, 400 passing yards or 400 total yards isn't something to be excited about. But again, when you hold them out of the end zone, it's good. And, there's a lot of things that you can build off from this game in not totality, but individually. Like we said, Farmer had his best game of the season. Quindarius Jones, he might have had that one issue. I think he had a penalty, but other than that, he needs to have an increased role moving forward. Jalen Early got his second start. and he looked really good in some of the counters. And PFF gave him a grade of 75.8, and that was the best on offense. Talked about Edwin Joseph already. He had a personal foul. I think he was the one. I don't think Quindarius Jones had a foul. It was Edwin Joseph who had the personal foul that was questionable, but still. It looks like already in the he's going to have a much bigger role because they've already moved Earl Little Jr. To the safety position backup. So he might have a more snaps and more influence in the games moving forward. Toafili had a great game. Patrick Payton had a great game. And, it's just Blake Nicholson. A lot of good things that you can build on. So, where do we go from here as the Seminoles? I mean, you go to SMU. You're a 6.5 point underdog. This is the first time all season that you've been an underdog. How will you respond? SMU's got a lot of transfers coming in. fans joke that's UM B team because that's where, the former offensive coordinator that they had, that's where he went. And he's got a few transfers to go over there. But is this a sod game where you chop up the sod and bring it home and put it in the cemetery, or do you fall to 1-4? The defense has responded. They've gotten progressively better, started cleaning up a little more. You still have certain situations, like I said, those second and long, third and long situations are being converted too easily or too often. And this offense just needs to show something. Atkins is back. Are we supposed to celebrate 2 touchdowns? We'll see where we go from here, folks. I thought I'd be more excited for a win, but again, once I sat down and watched the game, it just wasn't as a bright spot as I wanted it to be. There's still a lot of things that need to be cleaned up, but a win's a win. You got to take it. You got to move forward and hope you can do something with the season from here on out. That's going to wrap this one up, folks. You know the drill already. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. Like, subscribe, follow. Get those notifications so you can listen to these as quickly as possible. Because we're pumping out the college football content, folks. We're going to have a podcast about UM shortly. Probably do another what caught my eye this weekend. Last weekend, didn't really do one on that because it's a weird weekend. But we'll talk more college football this week for sure. So, thanks for listening, folks. Thanks for stopping by. Really struggling at the end here. Thanks for sticking around. Thanks for stopping by. We'll catch you next time here on 305 Insights. Have a good one, folks.